Marvin Harrison Jr. went off over the weekend, and his performance did not go unnoticed as he received a big-time honor from the Big Ten Football Conference. What award did he win? We'll discuss that today on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, September 12th in the year 2022, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we will discuss one thing that cannot continue that Ohio State has done in back-to-back weeks and why you should not pay any attention to the AP or coaches polls. But before we get to any of that, Marvin Harrison Jr., this young man went smooth off over the weekend. 7 receptions, 184 receiving yards, 3 trips to the end zone, and his performance, the numbers that he put up, got him named co-offensive player of the week in the Big Ten Football Conference. The other player that was listed as co-offensive player of the week was Talea Tagovailoa. His last name might be familiar. His brother, Tua, is the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Marvin Harrison Jr., a few things that the Big Ten noted in this email when announcing him as Big Ten co-offensive player of the week. He caught 3 touchdown passes over the weekend in the 45-12 win over Arkansas State. In doing this, he became the second wide receiver in school history to catch 3 touchdown passes in multiple games. The only other person is Joey Galloway. That's crazy good company to be in. He also had a career best 7 receptions for 184 receiving yards for a whopping 26.3 yards per receptions. This is his first time winning Offensive Player of the Week, the last Buckeye to win this award, C.J. Stroud, after his monster performance he had against Michigan State a year ago, where Stroud went 32 for 35. Oh, that's crazy. 432 passing yards with 6 touchdowns that he threw in that game. Marvin Harrison Jr., we can rant, we can rave, we can marvel, we can do a lot of things about him and his performance. But one thing that excites me is that in his last 3 starts, we got to see some monster performances from him and really some things that I do expect to happen over the next few weeks and over the next couple of years, as he will be in Columbus this year, and I do believe he'll be there next year, because he's not somebody that I anticipate transferring to another school. This young man is special. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I am not somebody that looks at him and says, because of who your dad is, that's why I think you're going to be good. I don't do that. To me, it's really immature. To me, it's lazy analysis. To me, you're not really putting the homework in and putting the time into figuring out why somebody is good. Because if your dad was why is the only thing you need to be good, Michael Jordan's boys would have been in the NBA. Michael Jordan's boys would have had a long, successful career in the National Basketball Association. There are other players that are out there that they would have been better, or maybe they may not have been as good because of what their dad did. Maybe their dad wasn't as good as they are, so they wouldn't be as good, or their dad made it to the league, and so they make it to the league. No, that's not how this works. You got to put your own work in. Yes, your genetics, and yes, your father or your mother, your upbringing, your relatives, people you're around as a youngster. Yes, those things do aid you and help you, but you have to put the work in. And Marvin Harrison Jr., we have seen, not just via the workout videos in the offseason, just not the videos of him working with the jugs machine, whatever it is, those videos don't do it for me. I have seen a lot from him in the Rose Bowl last year, in the game over the weekend against Arkansas State. I have seen enough from him to tell me, regardless of who his parents are or who his dad is, or regardless of any of that, this young man puts the work in. This young man is a person that puts the work in day in, day out. He gets work with Stroud. He gets work with the other receivers. He might get work with his high school quarterback, Kyle McCord, who is now his college quarterback and college teammate as well. He's putting the work in. He's working on his body. He's getting his proper nutrition, getting the proper rest he needs to properly recover and take care of his body. He is doing the things that he needs to do to be the best athlete and best football player he can be. And we saw that over the weekend. I don't care if it was a lesser opponent in Arkansas State, and I don't care if it was a Pac-12 champion in Utah. It does not matter who it is. Route Man Marv, as they call him, is a guy that when it comes to getting on top of the receiver and getting in parts of the coverage, defensive coverage, where the defense does not want him to be, he finds ways to do that. May it be some reason he has pre-snap, and then bam, snap of the ball, he's there around you. One of the things that I marvel about him, and I'm going to close up shop with this one. Well, not shop completely, just the first portion of this show. I have watched film, and I've rewatched both games that Ohio State has had. Marvin Harrison Jr. does a phenomenal job of getting off the line of scrimmage and not utilizing his hands to get a free release off the line. That's hard, man. You got a guy that's 2 yards away from you or 1 yard away from you or a yard and a half, maybe even 3 yards, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, 3 yards is a little much. But if he's a yard and a half away from you and you have to figure out, how can I get around this receiver quickly, swiftly, without derailing or pushing me off my path on this route? He does it with his feet. That's hard, man. Feet, hips, legs, utilizing ankles as well. Also utilizing his head and shoulders and his entire body to break you down and get past you at the line of scrimmage. There are numerous people in the National Football League that are not able to do that, even when weren't able to do that when they were in college, those that were receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is doing that now, and I don't think this is the last 3-touchdown performance or game that he's going to have this season. I really don't think so. Ryan Roberts of RiseandDraft.com talked about how explosive Marvin Harrison Jr. can be. Route Man Marv was number 2 on Bruce Feldman's freak list for this upcoming college football season. We have seen that freaky athleticism on full display already this season, and I can't wait to see what Marvin Harrison Jr. does as he continues to stunt like his daddy during this year's college football season. There's one thing the Buckeyes have done in back-to-back games that they cannot continue to do. What is it? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts. And it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. To get started, download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKED, that's LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8-star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED, LOCKED, to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. We have said it before, we'll say it again. We're inching closer to our goal of hitting 2,000 subscriptions on the YouTube, and we need your help to hit said goal. Go to YouTube. If you're already on YouTube, which you should be if you're watching this video, go ahead, hit subscribe. I know you're on YouTube right now. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. It's red. You can't miss it. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on this channel. There will be some things that are YouTube exclusives, and you want to be subscribed and you want to get alerted every time one of those videos gets uploaded. So our goal, 2,000 subscriptions, very, very soon. By the time Ohio State kicks off against Wisconsin, we can do it, but we need your help to do so. Tell your families, tell your friends, tell that foe that you have that you know loves Ohio State, but you still can't stand them. Tell them about the show as well to help the show grow. Oh, yeah, it's free. Everything we do at Locked On is free and available for your enjoyment every single day. So your Buckeyes have done some good things on the football field. Beat the number 5 team in the country week 1. You can say whatever you want about Notre Dame, how they have played so far, just losing to Marshall. They're still the number 5 team in the country, and that's going to go down in the record books for years and years to come. Ohio State opened up the 2022 season, beating the number 5 team in the country. Week 2, you beat a lesser opponent from the Sun Belt, the Arkansas State Red Wolves, but you still scored 45 points. You beat them by 33 points. 2 things that'll go down in the stat sheet. You're 2-0. These are some phenomenal accomplishments. However, there's one thing that's a glaring problem, a glaring hole. And it reared its ugly head during the second offensive drive that Arkansas State had over the weekend. We'll discuss what happened here in a second. These penalties, man, they got to stop. They have to stop. And these are self-inflicted wounds. Now, I'll discuss one that we all probably remember from the weekend where it's like, is that really a rule? Because I never heard about said rule. I never heard that being a problem. Is that really a rule? Where'd that rule come from? So I will discuss that in a second. But 7 penalties against Notre Dame, 9 penalties over the weekend against Arkansas State, and we had guys jumping off sides. I think it was like a third down, and Zach Harrison jumped off sides, had a false start for DeJuan Jones. That's just one of the offensive linemen that jumped off sides, and his name popped off because I recently wrote down something that he did while we were watching the game. That's why his name is fresh on my mind. But these penalties have to stop, man. The second offensive drive that Arkansas State had, Ohio State stops them on third down. You think, great, get off the field. Offense comes back on. Let's go ahead and try to score this thing once again. Next thing you know, the ball is snapped. The punt gets off. Igbuka runs the ball back. Touchdown, you think? Wrong. Taraja Mitchell gets flagged for jumping into the block shield. Now, the block shield, when it was announced, I had no idea what the block shield was. Those are the 3, maybe 4 guys that are in front. Maybe it could be 2 guys. The guys that are in front of the punter, a few yards in front of him to be the final line of protection before the punt gets off. And Taraja Mitchell jumps, and I didn't know you couldn't jump into them or even try to jump over them to try to block the ball. I completely understand why the long snapper, you can't jump over him in a field goal because his head is down and you come down on his head. That's a drastic injury. Well, these guys are not the ones snapping the ball. They're already up and facing you, and they're prepared to block. So not being able to jump over the block shield is a weird rule, but that's the rule. That's a penalty. Now, if that was the only penalty that happened, so be it. I get it. I probably wouldn't be as upset about this drive as I currently am or as I was in the moment. Next thing you know, I believe it's third down. Denzel Burke gets flagged for pass interference. Okay, that was third down. Ball keeps moving. Ball keeps moving forward. Arkansas State keeps the ball. Another time, Denzel Burke gets flagged for pass interference. This is 3 penalties. One of them negated a touchdown. Another one negated the team getting off the field. Another one, I think the other one was on second down. Denzel Burke did not get his head around, face guarded, hands straight up in front of the receiver. I'm like, buddy, you know better technique than this. What are you doing? And what happens? He gets flagged for pass interference. Arkansas State keeps the ball. They end up scoring one of their 4 field goals on this drive. And this is one thing that you might say, Jay, that's 3 flags, 1 drive against a bad opponent. It's not that deep, but it is. It is that deep. And I'll tell you why. These are the games that you're supposed to try to fine-tune things, figure things out, and try to work on execution on offense, or try to use different personnel groupings to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work going forward in the season. On defense, you might try to find different pairings or groupings on the defensive line. You might try to use Simon, maybe in a Will or a Mike situation, to figure out who does he pair with when he comes on the field, or does it matter? You might try and get Chip Trainum on the field a little bit more against Toledo this coming weekend in prime time on Big Fox to figure out if he can be a viable 4th linebacker for the Buckeyes this year. You might try to get more guys lined up at corner or safety to figure out what's going to happen here. You're trying to fine-tune things and utilize these games, even though the regular season games, Sometimes you utilize these games as kind of like a scrimmage or an extra practice to figure things out. However, there's not really a practice because these things count, but in practice, you're going to try certain things to figure out, does it work? Does it not work? Should we try it in games? Should we not try it going forward? I say all that to say this. You don't want to have any of these moments be derailed and pushed back or messed up because you have players making bone-headed decisions. A false start? Buddy, you're on offense. You know the snap count. What's a false start for? Hey, defensive lineman jumping off sides? The ball's right in front of you. I understand when to get a little extra not extra motivation, to get a little quicker get off to beat the guy in front of you. I understand that. The ball's right in front of you. Bad technique. These are all things that are preventable. These are all things that aren't like, hey, a bang bang play, and all of a sudden, like, I was just wrong place, wrong time. It's none of that stuff. Now, I'm not even talking about targeting and it being a fuzzy call. I'm not saying any of that. The things that I'm talking about today are preventable. These are preventable things. And a bad technique, Denzel Burke, who had phenomenal technique last year, but got picked on over the weekend, hand straight up, pass interference, keep moving the ball. These are things that need to be stopped. Because if you don't stop them now, yes, it's coming up playing Toledo. I don't care who you're playing. After that, you're playing Wisconsin. Another prime time game. First 3 games of the year, first 4 games of the year, 3 of them are in prime time. 2 on ABC, 1 on Big Fox. 2 of them having Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler, and Holly Rowe calling the game. Hello, I love this stuff. I love this game, and I'm glad they're playing in prime time. Actually, it works out very well for my schedule right now at the Buckeyes, and I can watch football and watch some Buckeye football to close out the day. But I don't want to have to come on here after the Toledo game and discuss more penalties and say, that ain't right. That ain't right. The team is staying on the field because of Buckeye issues via penalties. That can't continue. Part of the way Ryan Day is going to keep the standard high is to also make sure this team is not committing bonehead penalties that derail and mess up the team and their pursuit of winning a national championship and really going undefeated in the 2022 college football season. Penalties can hurt you in small games, in big games. It does not matter. These habits, these things we have seen, let's cut down the number of penalties the Buckeyes have in each game. But trust me, it'll also widen the margin of victory at the end of each contest. One thing the Buckeyes can't do, we just discussed it, the penalties, but one thing I would encourage every fan to do is very, very simple, but it's easy for us to get caught up in the numbers and the polls. What would I encourage fans not to do? Stick around, y'all. You'll hear it right here next on Locked on Buckeyes. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. Billiards Plus also can set you up with a brand new top-of-the-line grill that will last for generations. We all know how hard it is with the supply chain issues this year and getting certain things shipped on time. So when it comes to ordering that one big gift for Christmas, check out Billiards Plus and get there early this year. Pick something out and get it shipped in time for Christmas. It is a gift the whole family will enjoy year-round. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Ohaston, Canada, billiards, and more. Plus, top-of-the-line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and The Griddle. That will be the last grill you own. Seriously, these grills stand the test of time. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Check them out at billiards-plus.com. Once again, check them out at billiards-plus.com. Billiards Plus, family owned and operated for generations. It's easy for fans. I am a fan, so it's easy for me as well to get wrapped up in the polls. The AP poll, the college football playoff poll, the coaches poll, formerly the BCS poll. I like the Sagarin rankings, but those aren't not one of the polls that people utilize all the time. But it's easy for people to get wrapped up in the polls. You see, there have been 2 games played for some schools, 3 games played for some schools. And you're watching football. You're smart. I mean, Buckeye fans are some of the smartest fans in the country, and I will not shy away from saying that. You guys are all smart. But one thing I would encourage fans not to do, because this stuff doesn't mean anything about what gets on the field, is to fall in love with or say this is the end-all be-all or buy into what you see in the polls. There's a couple reasons why. One of them, these guys voting on these, a lot of them are beat writers of teams. They're not able to watch all multiple. It's like, can they watch 10 games in a day? Not completely. Let's just say specifically, there's a guy who covers Ohio State who has been on this podcast who is covering the team. And let's say that Ohio State this past weekend has a 12 o'clock game. Well, was it this past weekend? Yeah, this past weekend. I was trying to figure out if it was 12 o'clock or not. Yes, it was still a 12 o'clock game. And so this particular individual, I'm guessing their timetable. Let's say they get to the stadium at 9 in the morning, about 9:30. They're at the stadium, and then they go to the game. Game gets over around 3:30. You have the game. Notre Dame starts at 2:30. Most of your afternoon slate starts at 3:30 or 4, maybe 3 o'clock. Post-game press conference, writing post-game articles, all of that stuff. And they all of a sudden, they might not, I don't know, the game is over at 3:30. They might not leave the stadium until 5:30, maybe even later than that. Well, you're missing most of the middle of the afternoon games. And then you have the night games you can watch. And if you want to stay up to watch Pac-12 After Dark, you can watch those as well. But a lot of the times, people are utilizing the outcomes of games to determine and decide who is going to be the top team and ranking the teams. Sometimes, let's say you have a game at 3:30. Yeah, you can watch some games at 12, and a lot of times you're going to miss the games at night due to the game. Let's say it goes into overtime and post-game press conferences. And if you're a writer, an article, or if you're someone's doing a post-game show, you have things to do. A lot of the time, these guys doing this stuff, even the writers, they have a hard time keeping up with a lot of the stuff. So they're utilizing the stats, they're utilizing the outcome of games, utilizing things that are said on podcasts like this to help them formulate their opinion and their ranking. A lot of them are smart. Very, very smart. I'm not saying this person is, I don't know their formula. I don't know. I've not talked to them, any writer or AP voter, to say how they get this thing done. But it's hard. It's hard. Very, very hard. Especially when you have 25 teams that are in the AP poll in these polls. And then as the AP poll does, you're still voting for other teams. So there are teams that are receiving votes. And there are numerous people. Reese Davis of Game Day is on this as a voter. I'm trying to think. There's nobody else I can think of off the top of my head that's a voter right now that would be on the national scale. Brett McMurphy, I think. Many of you might not like him, but I believe he's a voter in the AP poll. I want to say Barrett Salee of CBS Sports. I want to say he's a voter in the AP poll. A lot of these guys cannot watch all the games or a lot of the games, and so they're just going off of outcomes. And you might say, how is Alabama ranked higher than Ohio State? That's what the voters say. Does that mean what happens on the field? No. Does that dictate what's going to happen this weekend? Absolutely not. So remember, the voters are strapped by time because there's a time element that, one, they're busy on game day, and then two, they're also busy with their own jobs. So it's hard. It's really hard. I'm not a voter, but I was thinking about this recently. Like, how hard would it be to be a AP voter in college football? It's difficult, man. It's really, really difficult. But I would not buy into, and I would not get upset if you see Georgia 1. I think Georgia's probably the clear-cut number 1 team right now. Alabama 2. Could they be interchangeable with Ohio State? Possibly. Could they be interchangeable with Michigan? Possible. Like, could Ohio State, Michigan move up? It's very likely. There's an argument to be made that Alabama should not be 2. Alabama should be 3 or should be 4. Clemson, are they the number 5 team? Should they be changed with Oklahoma? Like, these are things that can happen. But one thing people do is buy into the polls, formulate opinions on said polls, try to say who is better or than one team or the other because of where they land in the polls. That don't mean nothing. And this is very similar to how I view the recruiting rankings. That stuff don't mean nothing about what's going to happen on the field. Don't buy into it. Now, yes, you can utilize some of the scouting reports and things like that. But I don't care if you're a 5-star or 4-star or 3-star. If my eyeballs tell me you can ball, you can ball. I don't care what your recruiting ranking is. And I don't care where you fall in the AP poll. If my eyeballs tell me you can ball and your team is good and y'all got dogs on the team, I don't care. I don't care what the polls say. My eyeballs tell me something a little bit different. Don't buy into the polls, y'all. Don't do that. My encouragement, is to let the polls be the polls. The only poll that really means anything is at the end, that comes out at the end of the year anyway. But that's down there. Buy into what you see on the field. Let your eyeballs tell you and dictate how you analyze and how you evaluate the games on the field. And then if you want to make your own poll, AP poll, or your Mr. Joe Smith poll, whatever you want to call it, so be it. Have fun with it. It's just football. It's just sports. We're supposed to be having fun. We can do just that. Guys, closing up shop on a Tuesday. Tomorrow, stock up, stock down on Thursday. A preview of this weekend's opponent, the Toledo Rockets. And then on Friday, I'm picking some more games. Didn't do so hot this past week. Got to do a little bit better this coming weekend. And then also some questions going into the Week 3 matchup with Toledo. Fun-filled week right here on Locked On Buckeyes. You know how to make sure you're up to date and you get everything coming out with the show? Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It's red on the YouTube. If you're watching the video right now, you see it. If you have not subscribed already, hit subscribe. Also, if you're an audio listener of the podcast, subscribe on the Apple Podcast app, the Odyssey app, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your fine podcast, subscribe there as well so you don't miss anything going on right here on Locked On Buckeyes. Oh, yeah, it's free. Everyone loves free stuff. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of every single day. Now for your second listen of the day, move over and tap into Locked On Big Ten as their host, Nate Dickinson, takes you on the conference in 30 minutes with a local expert every single day. The Big Ten, Locked On Big Ten, just like Locked On Buckeyes, they're both free and available wherever you get your fun podcast.